Hi, I'm Robbie Lyle. Now, youth violence and knife crime is a major problem in the UK right now. It's almost at epidemic proportions. Now, I want to ask this question. Can football be one of the answers to this big problem? Of course, we put together the Blood Brothers and we're really bringing together a lot of teams in grassroots football and really making a positive impact on the community. And we see here on Blood Brothers how it really brings everybody together as a community. You might have your differences, but you can solve it on the pitch sometimes. And there's a real camaraderie amongst the various teams. Now, is this something that can be rolled out to various communities to help to deal with this epidemic problem of knife crime? I want you to watch this documentary. This is a guy that you will see in the Blood Brothers teams, Bobby Kasanga. I know him very well, he's a great guy. And in this documentary, we're going to discuss, can football be the answer to this knife crime and youth violence?
Sadly, it is not unusual to have multiple stabbings on the same night. That is now typical of a Friday and Saturday night in London.
The Home Office today announced a further £5 million cut from the Met Police budget.
Ferocious violence often used by other young people, normally in groups, usually associated with street drug dealing.
Knife fights, muggings, stabbings. These are not new to the youth of London, but in the last few years they have rapidly escalated to epidemic levels.
Almost 10 years ago now, I think. I lost my brother.
A kid said it not too long ago, he's 16. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to end up in a box or end up in jail?
You know, it's the choices you make. Choices you make, the people you're around, the company you keep. If you're around positive people, positive things are going to happen. If you're being around negative people and doing negative things are going to come back to you.
We're losing lives. That tells you how bad it is.
How do you shift the status quo of an entire generation? What inspires, influences and drives the passion of young men across the nation? Football. It's the most popular game in the world, but it's more than that. For most young males in the UK, and indeed around the globe, it's the most powerful, iconic symbol.
Football, man, I mean, what does it mean to people? It's a culture, it's a religion, it's an ethos, it's a way of life. You know, you look at what football means to people and football can break hearts. Football can bring people together. Football can make people express themselves. If you love it, it will always have you, it will always keep you there. And I think that if you don't love football, I don't think you can really understand it. If you don't enjoy it, I don't think you can understand why people keep coming back for more and more.
The biggest religion in this country is football.
Football isn't just a tool that can actually change your life, it actually can shape your life.
If you love football, but maybe you're struggling in other areas of your life, you start with your passion and you harness that passion to support young people, to inspire them.
You just need to tap in to a skill, common ground, and you'll find the young people.
To understand the solution to youth violence, we must first understand what underlies the problem. Meet Robin Lockhart. With 20 years of experience, Robin Lockhart is a seasoned professional in youth community work. Voted the Global Youth Worker of the Year, he is a passionate and committed advocate for troubled youth.
There are people that are drawn to the excitement. There are people that are drawn to the glamour. There is a sort of a glamour around being involved. People are drawn to the money. And then there are people that just brought up in it. They've never made a choice, they haven't joined it, they've just never not been involved.
Always been a troublesome kid. I like fighting, I like being the top man. Who could be the alpha male?
We met a man affiliated with a London gang who wishes to remain anonymous.
This is gang, this is team, it's my people. I was probably in year 9, probably like 14.
Meet Bobby Kasanga. 4 years ago he was in prison for armed robbery.
Then I guess when it got to sort of year 10 is when things started escalating. Everyone started doing mobile phone robberies. So we used to go to Chakadero up in West End and approach people, and if someone was not from not from the local, from Peckham, where you from? They told us from elsewhere. Then we would rob them, get the phones, take it back, sell them, and that's how we used to make our money.
There's a lot of talk now about violence and particularly gang violence being more like a disease than anything else, and being more sort of like a virus. And that isn't a useful analogy. You can catch it, it can be passed on to you, you can become immune to it. It doesn't happen in isolation. Young people are not a separate species that grew up somewhere completely different and come along with their violence. They grow up within it.
My brother-in-law, he got stabbed in the cheek, he got stabbed in the neck, like the thing went through his cheek into his tongue. He didn't really, he couldn't feel it because it was where it's so, quick. Last year, the gangs lost a serious member. 6 months later, we lost another person I was close with. I grew up with him since year 7. We were close, we played football together, we was in lessons together, we joked about, we laughed together. It makes you think, oh, this could happen, if this could happen to one of your close friends, it can happen to you at any time. It happens to people that's not even part of gang, they're just there at the wrong time, wrong place, wrong time. And then a part of you, because you see it happen to your friends, you just think, fuck it, if they get you, you gotta go get them. It's an eye for an eye.
Wanting to see how young people get into rough situations, we met now rapper 10 Gears, who spent 10 years in jail.
I'm Amir Abdul Latif. I've been out for about 2.5 years now. See, I think when I actually got introduced to money, that's when I actually the brain started to tick and think of how to get money. And obviously when you're young, you don't really think about work and stuff. So I kind of thought robbing and theft and stuff like that was kind of the easy option. So I think it kind of started when I was in school. I went to Ernest Bevan in Tooting, and I used to take a big bag to school, and I used to go to Woolworths and rob sweets and sell them in school. So I think that's where I kind of started gaining, and then obviously things escalate. Just kind of seeing you kind of monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. At that young age, you're like, oh, I want to get that car. So how am I going to get that car? And it seems that crime seems to be the option from a young age.
To understand the psychology of young offenders, we met Bob Singer, a master youth coach with decades of experience working with at-risk youth.
So being a young person or a child, we are naturally and almost biologically set up to explore, to experiment, to be attracted to dangerous and exciting things. In the same way that someone's attracted to a football match and saying, wow, it's very exciting. There's drama, there's excitement, or feeling adult. In the same way, a young person is attracted to experiment with drugs. They're excited and attracted to having power in their life.
I started thinking, I can't just walk around selling drugs. I want to have a name for myself. I want to have people look at me and be like, oh, that's that guy. Oh, that's him. I don't want to go to him. If I know someone's got something that I want, then I'd go and get it. I'd go up behind them, rob them, hit them, fight them. And then it got worse and worse. And then I started getting known, and gang activity, fighting.
We did shop robberies. So we used to go in shops, rob top-up cards, post offices, little things like that.
There's nothing for you, then the easiest way is to sell drugs to get your money.
So before you know it, I become a nuisance to my family until someone else picks me up and gives me a job, which I'm making more money than my dad, mum, or even my carer.
One of my friends one day said he's got a plan to do a security van. I'm like, I'm not doing that, that's crazy. And he ended up doing it, came back, he had £10,000 in cash. I'd never seen that amount of money ever in my life, so my eyes turned immediately. I said, when you do the next one? He said, next week. So from then on, that's what we started doing.
At that time, it's critical that someone who is a trusted adult can have that conversation with a young person. It's usually the parents. Now, if we think back to our own childhood, it's usually the parents. As a young man, it's usually our father or our father or uncle that comes and says, hold on, son, this is what you've got to have a look out for. There's easy money, but that comes with consequences. My question is, who's having those conversations nowadays? If it's not parents, and sometimes we know that young people are coming from broken families, and if it's not youth workers, skilled youth workers, then unfortunately, it'll probably be guys waiting outside the school gates saying, all right, son, you want to earn £50, £100 today? Now, they could be grooming them into gangs, radicalisation, but what they're doing is they're offering the same thing. They're offering them a sense of excitement, of belonging, or a sense of certainty, a sense of, this is what it means to be a man.
It's easy to compare the recruitment of youngsters into gangs to the way religious extremists, whether Christian right or Islamic, recruit for their causes. Recently, Sam Harris interviewed filmmaker DEEYAH on her films Jihadi and White Right. Their conversation seemed to point to the exact same psychological underpinnings.
The jihadi worldview is incredibly compelling. It has all of the satisfactions of supercharged religion, but in addition to that, you as a testosterone poisoned young man get to join a gang, and it really checks all of the boxes in the male imagination and search for self-aggrandizement.
I did find that other than some of the very, very committed guys, like recruiters, like the leaders, most of the followers were actually not particularly religious, actually, and that they were far more driven by, a sense of alienation, this inability to deal with shame and humiliation in their life, whether it's experiences of racism or abuse or trauma or whatever the specifics might be. It's sort of emotional and psychological vulnerabilities is underlying a lot of this, and the needs that these movements are satisfying for young men.
There was an expression of power and certainty and confidence in your club. And that bled into this kind of aggression and violence. It was a version of masculinity, which was hyper-masculinity. It was the way I'm a man, the way you're going to be a man, son, is if you punch someone.
A lot of the time, people don't understand that there's a massive link between football hooliganism and gangs, or urban gangs as people like to call it. The whole postcode war started from football hooliganism, because you got someone representing their football club. When they're away, they go to the next team to go and have a fight. It's exactly the same thing.
Football is a tool. However, its ability to build communities together can also swiftly turn into destructive hooliganism. The key is to use the tool positively, to focus on all its benefits.
The riots happened in London in 2011, and I felt like I wanted to do something and find a way of connecting with young people. And so I just started running some football sessions in Camberwell, and it's just grown from that.
At the head of Football Beyond Borders is JASPER KAIN, a man who has dedicated his life using football to help people.
Organisations like FBB, but also football clubs, can do more to tap into young people's passion and give them that opportunity to achieve their potential.
If young people are looked after by mentors and coaches and supported correctly, then you will see an impact. And don't tell me young people don't want to see change and they don't want a better life, because they do.
People are really struggling often with feeling a sense of belonging, having a sense of purpose. It's a really simple philosophy. If you love football, but maybe you're struggling in other areas of your life, you start with your passion and you harness that passion to support young people, to inspire them and try and help educate them so that they can have better life chances.
They're in a difficult period at the moment, with what goes on the streets and locally, and just the work that they've done in creating a kind of different vibe around young people, a positive vibe.
So often, you might be struggling or finding certain challenges, and actually football can be a way of releasing energy, and it's almost like a form of escapism.
Football is the key. A lot of young people, the only way to engage with them is through football.
Across our programmes with over 400 young people, there was a 31% reduction in behaviour incidents across the programmes. You had 100%, every single young person said they were more confident about their futures.
Your life is about to be a walk on a tightrope with lots of juggling to do. There will be lots of temptation to be led astray. One of your best friends will be hospitalised by another friend over an oyster card. A fight will break out, blood will be shed, and you will lose a trainer. Even though Dad is never around, there are other men who will become important to you. These men will provide you with the discipline and care and fill the void that Dad had left behind. With time, believe it or not, you will become like them. You will want to focus your energy on the next generation who are just like you. Those same weedy, stick-looking boys with awful haircuts and big eyes who love the city that they come from, but haven't quite found their path. Yours sincerely, 24-year-old Anton.
The average age of a school exclusion is 13.5 in this country, and over 50% of people who are excluded from school end up going to prison.
I've had conversations with people where a young man's got into trouble and they'll say things, professionals will say things like, oh, he's got a little brother, he's only 9 now, but we're probably going to meet him later on. Well, work with him now.
LEROY Logan, 30 years in the Met Police, one of the founders of the Black Police Association.
So since 2010, when austerity really kicked in for the Met, the first thing they were looking at was reducing personnel. And one of the biggest reduction in personnel was the safer neighbourhood teams.
Since 2010, spending on youth services has been cut by £345 million, and Met Police spending has been cut by £720 million. In that time, violent crimes in London has risen by 66%.
So some areas of the UK have seen up to 88% reduction in youth service budgets. And some areas even have seen total eradication of the youth service. And there's not been protests in the streets. Now imagine if we shut down a hospital and we wondered why people were getting ill. Now this is the world that we live in, this is the country that we live in. We've totally eradicated in some areas youth support services, and we're wondering or scrabbling around and asking how come young people are suffering problems and killing each other.
I was on an estate in South London talking to some young people, and they said everything's shut down, there's nowhere to go.
On the estates and stuff, there's not really activities like to do, there's not things put in place for children, youths and things like that. There's really not. So we get bored. So what can we do with boredom? We get that adrenaline rush. Let's go do something. Let's go rob something. Let's get that little boost, because you do it once, you do it again, you do it again, you get it in. And it carries on and carries on and carries on. And when the youths are doing it and seeing the older lot do it, there's no end right now. There's really not.
And all we hear is cuts to police, cuts to youth services. We haven't got enough money. But each time there's a murder, we then find 1.7 million to deal with that. How much is it to run a youth club for a year? I'm sure it's not that much. So the money that we spend on one murder could have preserved a youth centre or helped someone set up a business for a year.
The Met used to pride itself for its clear-up rate of murders of being over 90%. It's under half that now. Under half that.
We're waiting, we're reactive, we're waiting until an incident happens and then money gets spent.
Young lives have been lost, and we need to find positive solutions as a group to bring that all together.
There's no better case study for the power of football than Bobby Kasanga. From repeated offending to championing the next generation of young people, he's living proof of football's power.
Hackney Wick Football Club came about 3 years ago, a month after I'd been released from prison. I've been away for about a combination of 8 years with 1 year out in between it. And I saw so many talented people in jail wasting their potential, didn't know about playing professional football. So when I came out, I knew that the borough of Hackney didn't have its own football team. So I wanted to sort of bridge that gap by providing the area with a football team, but also the youth with a chance to progress. We've got over 170 kids on our books, so what are these 170 kids doing if they're not coming to our football club? So we're just trying to give them that opportunity to stay out of trouble, give them some respite from their families as well. Some of them have issues, so when they come to us, it's a way of just escaping that, for them to also escape the gang.
Obviously, you guys know Bobby's background, and he wants to obviously have the club be a positive thing in the community, and I definitely think he's done that. If you look, especially even on another day, you'll see how many kids are really here, you know, and that just means that they're here doing something fun, and their parents know where they are.
Some of them had been, you know, in trouble prior to joining Hackney Wick, and now they're here doing a good thing for themselves.
Hackney Wick do amazing things in the community. They bring people together. I mean, there's a lot of kids that would probably pretty wayward if they didn't have some of the support systems that Hackney Wick put in place.
It's crazy, but you know, you just got to keep going and just keep trying to keep putting positive things into the community, and hopefully one day, you never know, it might change.
Today is Hackney Wick's kit launch. It's also the journey of Bobby Kasanga from repeat offending to the creator of a club sponsored by the world's biggest sports brand. The power of football to replace street violence is without parallel, because it has all the elements of gangs themselves. The real battle is to keep football culture positive too, and prevent it degenerating into tribal hooliganism.